Robert.
Yo, what's shaking AC?
We are back for episode 2 of our special Ang Rob Rants for franchisees.
There we go.
Here we go. And today we're going to be talking about hiring and interview hacks. Because if you can get that hiring process right and those interviews right, you save yourself a lot of time, energy, and money.
Absolutely.
And we've both been there, for the record. I was a franchisee for 18 years, had 3 stores.
I got interviewed when I was looking for a job.
You also have employees at your franchise corporate location, Control V in Waterloo, which is where we are right now. Well,
we're at Good Company Productions.
We're live.
It's a pretty rad place. There's drums back here and guitars. It's a recording studio and beautiful lights and all this.
Robert, this is like Robert's dream come true. So anyway, here we are, and we're going to talk about hiring and interview hacks. So why don't I'll kick it off with one.
Okay, kick it off.
I think it's really important, and I see a lot of people don't have this. I think it's really important to have a clear process. What is your process? Not just someone, we're hiring and then someone walks in the door, let's just go do an interview, and then you just ask whatever, I go with my gut. And it's true, like your gut can give you good information, but you might miss the opportunity to ask some really good questions. So have a clear process and be clear with the candidate. This is the process. If we get to this point, then, if we get past this interview, this is what we're going to do. We either call you or not call you. But then the next interview, what does that look like? You don't have to necessarily tell them that, but you need to know. I don't know why I did this, but you need to know.
I say I agree with you, but honestly, I leave that up to the human resources department. For me, it's so much more important to deal with the resume and the interview and actually know the person. I understand the value of the process, and you're absolutely right. But to me, it's just like, okay, human resources take care of that. I want to make sure that this is an A player. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay. Did I throw you off?
A little bit.
Okay.
So, okay. But anyway, let's. Why don't you give a hack that you?
Okay, well,
Wait, I'm still kind of confused if you disagree with me.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, it does need to be done.
Yes, it's just not top of mind for me.
Okay, because that's not your role.
Right.
Okay, but the company should have, the small business or the franchisee should have a process.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we can move on.
All right.
I was worried about having a nightmare tonight that we disagreed, and then everyone in the world would know, and then they would never watch our rants again. Anyway, okay, what else?
I'm just happy that you're dreaming of me.
Oh.
Okay, anyways, so first of all, interviews. Okay?
Yeah.
I find that any competent person in general can ace an interview if the interview is just very bland. Show me your skill sets, get up to the whiteboard and show me all the engineering you've learned and answer these questions. Great. Tell me a bit about yourself. What do you like to do for fun? If you were an animal, which one would you be and why?
And what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Yeah. And then I can't think of any of either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'd be a sea otter. Okay. What does that mean, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important that in an interview, you ask things that people aren't typically used to. For example, maybe you just put down, when somebody walks in, just have something random sitting there, like a corn pop or something, and see what they do with it. See how they interact. Maybe they engage and have a conversation about that. Maybe they'll just eat it. Maybe they'll pick it up and throw it in the garbage, So, there's a whole concept of being able to also pull out of them their personality. Trying to understand who they really are. Get them to draw something. Talk about something that isn't related to the job. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and get creative. And I think it's also really important to ask open-ended questions. You don't want to ask yes or no questions because those are really really easy to figure out what to say.
Yeah.
So open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else?
For me, it's more about having a conversation. And as soon as I hear that the answers are a little bit templated, I'm like, okay, this isn't going the way I want it to. I need to adjust it and change it.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's talk about resume screening because it sounded like that's something that you do. You said.
Yeah. Actually, I was looking at our notes and I said resume screening. I'm like, what resume? It's resume.
Resume.
We need the accent aigu or whatever it's called. Anyways, so resume screening. Also, in my opinion, very similar to interviews. You can have a resume that is incredibly polished, and the person comes in for the interview and they're a complete dud. On the flip side, you could have a resume that looks terrible, and this person has probably been told by their parents, their mentors, their employers, their colleagues, everything, you need to spruce up your resume. It's 6 pages, it should be 3, it's using a Microsoft Word template or whatever. And what happens is you could be missing out on a really, really incredible candidate because you're discriminating right away from the beginning.
Pinching the funnel at the top.
Pinching the funnel at the top.
Yeah. So are you saying then that you don't really use the resume to screen? You would recommend that people just talk to everyone?
I say, yeah, I mean, okay, I don't use the resume necessarily to screen. I use the resume as a great foundation to help me think of questions to then deploy during the interview. You know?
Right.
But I mean, sometimes like you don't want to waste your time, and you do want to screen at the resume.
Yeah.
At the resume stage,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I have a suggestion.
Give her.
Instead,
Yep.
what you could do is have them send a video. So they could send a video and a resume, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's apps and stuff that you can use for that. So
Yep.
so have them send a video about themselves, a little video, and see how they do. And especially if you're in a customer facing business.
Yep.
You know, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but getting in front of the camera, you know, but I'm really scared right now. I'm sweating, like no, I'm kidding. But
Of what? All the lights?
it's actually the heat, yeah. But all the people, all the fans here. But yeah, so I think have them send a video or do the interview, or I was going to say have them apply in person. Actually, I was going to jump to that.
Yeah.
Have them apply in person so that that way you can screen the person and the resume at the same time. And if you're not there and someone else is there to receive that resume, one of your other employees, have them have a little conversation, maybe make a note on the resume. This one, he was very unhygienic or wearing something with profanity, like he obviously doesn't have that kind of common sense.
That's really interesting. You know, oftentimes in the sales world, there's this phrase that says always be closing. So anytime you're talking to somebody, you're like closing a sale.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a culture where it's like always be hiring. And
Oh,
your
yeah.
whole staff knows that if there's a good person, you're going to want them on the team. So always be conscious of what to pull out of them.
We just yesterday at the franchisor roundtable that I run, this was the topic of conversation. It just came up and we were talking about always hiring, because if there's someone awesome out there, I would definitely want to hire them and either find a role for them or bump out somebody that's not awesome.
Yeah.
If you've got someone that's, or maybe someone's getting ready to move on or whatever. But yeah, so always be hiring. That's a little side bonus, but let's just stay on this. So apply in person. And then I'm going to throw in one last thing just to kind of keep this segueing, is to get your team involved. This is something we were very adamant about at our stores. And so we would have, before we would bring somebody on, once we kind of got them a little bit screened, or they might have done some of the initial screening, but before the final decision was made, we would have the people that would be working with them chime in. We're like, how do you feel if you're working with this person every day? This person's going to be like family to you if you're here, especially if you're full time. And what did you think? And so that way too, not only do they give you their input, but they can't complain if the person that you hired isn't a good fit, and they understand that you can't always know that.
So is that kind of like a reverse group interview? Rather than like a whole bunch of attendees and one interviewer,
Sure.
you have a whole bunch of staff and one interviewee?
Sure, if you want to call it that.
Reverse group interviews, do that.
So on that point, you can do group interviews as another hack.
Yeah.
If you're hiring a lot of people at once and you're lucky enough to get enough candidates, and that's even how you can do a way to make it more efficient, going back to your suggestion of not necessarily pinching the funnel at the top and just throwing out a resume because it's not good. You could say, hey, we're having a group Zoom call.
Yep.
We're having a group Zoom call on Friday at this time. And if you're interested in this job, show up to this Zoom call. And I'll be asking you guys all some questions. And that just is like a screening to get them to the one-on-one interview.
Or you could do a competition, right? Like there was this movie with The Intern or The Internship with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson. And they were applying for a Google-style company. And they had to compete. And they had to like, in a team, create not only cohesive team interaction, but like solve the different problems and build an app. It's a really wicked app. You gotta watch this.
Okay, side note, but anyway, I think it's a good point that if you can gamify it or make it fun too, because the big challenge people have is people showing up for interviews.
Right.
So if you want to get them to even show up, if you can make it fun, that's another hack for you. Like just because that's people say all the time that people don't show up. So make it fun. Yeah.
Cool. Ready to wrap it up?
I am. Are you?
3,
2, 1.
Go be awesome.